Cyberpunk Phantom Liberty is out, and along with it, version 2.0 of Cyberpunk 2077. Along with it come a slew of new features, including an improved police force that actually works properly, vehicular combat, an entirely revamped perk system, a revamped cyberware system, and loads of other improvements and changes. Most importantly, though, for us Steam Deck users, are massive performance improvements. So to see how Cyberpunk 2077 is running with the new update, let's dive in and have a look at what the game looks like and performs under the stock settings, as well as what adjustments you can make to try and find the best balance between performance and visual impressiveness. So first, right here, we have the game running on the Steam Deck preset, and this is what the settings look like. You'll note that FSR 2.1 is set to balance, and Intel Xe supersampling is set to off. And this is how the game plays under those settings. Now, at the time of this recording, I did have the frame limit in the game under the video section set to 30 frames, and that's why it's not going over 30. And while the game does maintain that 30 FPS relatively well, there is a bit of stuttering here and there, showing less of a level of smoothness than I would like. And to thoroughly test this out, of course, the first thing we're going to do is pull out a gun and start shooting some cops. Because, as we all know, combat is one of the more demanding aspects of the game. You can also see here how the game is performing as we get into a car and shoot down a highway. And we can see here that there are areas where the game is dipping to about 24 frames. All in all, it's still a pretty good place to start from in terms of performance, particularly when you compare it to other recent releases such as Starfield. Now, just to compare, I'm only going to turn on dynamic resolution scaling, and let's see how the game performs with only this setting turned on. Again, no other changes made. So even in combat and with a bit of aggressive driving, I haven't seen the frame rate move from 29 to 30. And hands-on gameplay, I really don't notice that much of resolution drops in the game. So whatever it's doing a pretty good job, while still allowing you to keep the majority of settings on medium. So one thing I did try out is with the dynamic scaling resolution, I set a target frame rate for 45, which basically will adjust the resolution to try and achieve a target frame rate of 45. But if you'll remember, my frame rate is locked to 30. So the game is going to adjust the resolution as if it was going to give me 45, but then it's going to lock at 30. In theory, this should give me a bit of a performance overhead. Now, I wasn't too happy with the scaling at 45. This is where I did really start to notice the scaling. So I went back and set it to about 35 to give me about 5 frames of buffer, and I found this to be much better and much closer to what I experienced earlier, while giving me slightly more stable frame rate at 30.
Excuse you.
So to compare, we're going to see what the performance looks like from the recommended settings from a couple of other YouTubers. These are Steam Deck gaming settings, and you can have a look at them here. And like before, we're going to do a little bit of walking around, get into a gunfight, hop in a car, and we can see what his settings look like in comparison to the stock settings and the dynamic resolution settings that we had earlier as well. Most interestingly, his settings don't use FSR, but rather rely on Intel's supersampling. So it'll be interesting to see how those two compare.
What about roulette? Ever try that? No. Chances the score next to none. How the chance is always the same, isn't it?
And lastly, I wanted to also have a look at deck versus recommended settings. So we've got them over here, and he does prefer to use AMD's FSR. And interestingly, he sets a target for 40 frames per second, and he actually locks that in at the Steam Deck's refresh rate. However, due to a bug, I'm not able to do that, but I do have it locked in the video settings. So this is what those settings look like. Let's dive in and see what the gameplay looks like. And those are 3 of the recommended settings options for Cyberpunk 2077's 2.0 on the Steam Deck. Which settings did you prefer? Which ones did you end up using? Please let me know in the comment section below. I am actually genuinely curious to see which setting presets you guys are preferring. Thanks so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And feel free to join me on Discord to discuss Steam Deck, Mac OS gaming, or if you just want someone to play with. I'm usually on there. Please feel free to drop by. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.